So the three presenting problems that the client seems to want to focus on is work, money, and her relationship and her marriage, and probably just overall relationships. So I think that the interventions I would focus on for working with money would be empathy and understanding, because that seems like it's a lot of stress on her, especially being that her husband has kind of been the sole provider and has the most consistent form of income. So just understanding that it's hard and that's a lot of pressure to always have to rely on your husband, and it might make her feel like she has to stay in the relationship because of that. So I would definitely want to explore that and where she stands in her relationship as to whether she wants to work through these things with her husband, or if, due to the inconsistencies in their faith, if they want to continue in the marriage or not, or kind of go from there. And additionally, just work on interventions and kind of just what her social skills are like, and helping her to self-reflect on what her actions have been doing to kind of prevent her from creating these social relationships, such as with church, when she only wants to come when she's invited, or when she attends every Sunday and she only kind of goes to Bible study when she's invited. But what is kind of stopping her from having her own events, hosting it herself? Is it her relationship with her husband, or is it just lack of self-confidence? And additionally, I would just like to kind of focus additionally with the relational aspect, if she brings it up, what the verbal abuse in her past relationships has had an effect on her relationship today, because that may have contributed to why she has kind of just a keep her head down and work kind of stance, and additionally why she may not feel comfortable talking to her husband about faith and getting him to maybe come to church a little bit more often and kind of becoming more involved in that. And even just with her everyday relationships with her friends and her family, if that has had any effect on the way she looks at herself and her ability to kind of speak up, is because of this verbal abuse she experienced. So I would like to introduce the patient at this time. Please welcome.
Hi.
Hello. How are you?
I'm good. How are you?
Good. So my name is Kamani. I will be working with you today. Before we get started, I just kind of like to let you know that everything we discuss in here is completely confidential. There are a few clauses, I guess you could say, to confidentiality, and that's if there's anything involving a child or an elderly adult or someone who can't really care for themselves, if they're being abused in any type of way. So physically, emotionally, any type of thing like that would be the only time I would be required to break confidentiality. But other than that, everything will stay between us in session. So I guess we can just get started by what brought you in today.
Well, I'm here today because I'm just having some issues. I've been feeling a little down on myself because my job had to let go of me and several others about 6 months ago, and I've just been having trouble finding a new one. I've been an accountant for several years, and I have a lot of experience. I'm having trouble finding something that I find worth it. Also, my husband and I are in a strange place of our relationship. I'm just feeling a little stressed. I had thought that we were going to be able to retire in about 5 years, but with him having to carry me financially and me losing my job, is that even going to be an option for us? He's an engineer, so he makes fairly good money. We're financially doing okay. I just feel like it's all my fault. I'm not pulling my own weight.
That sounds like a lot of stress on you, and a lot of pressure and kind of worries. So you can start with work. Well, how is it? What is it like for you to, or what are some? I guess you say, what kind of work are you looking for? Are you looking to get into the same field when you're looking for a new job? Are you looking for something different?
I would like to continue to do accounting. That's all I know. It's all I've done. You know, I have a degree and that's my main focus. I just feel I'm really qualified, and it's hard to be a little older and just to begin a job, because I feel like most of the employers are looking for young professionals and not someone who's older.
And what was that like for you to get laid off from your previous job? How did that kind of make you feel in those experiences through that?
Well, I felt betrayed. I worked there for a really long time, and I just felt kind of betrayed that I was one of the people to be let go. I'm good at my job, but it must have been me. It must have been something that I've done.
Okay. So you said it must have been something that you've done, but you were laid off, correct? So there wasn't any specific reason why. What makes you feel like it must have been something that you did?
I just believe that most of the situations in my life are because of me, and I'm here because I want to be fixed, and I want it to happen just as soon as possible. I think my marriage isn't where it should be because of myself. I would have more money if I didn't, maybe not do as good as I should have at my job, or didn't perform to expectations. I don't know what it is that I'm doing, but it has to be something. It just has to be me.
What were your relationships like at work, if you had formed any relationships?
Well, I just kind of would talk to people, and other than the hello and the how are you, I didn't really say much else. I kind of kept to myself, and I would converse with my coworkers, but I would never go to lunch with anyone, and unless they initiated it. I wouldn't be the person to ask, or I don't think I had any issues with anyone. I don't feel like, I can't think of anything that I did that upset anyone.
Have you ever, you mentioned that one of your stress is kind of just about when you're going to retire with your husband now and things like that. And I'm just looking at kind of what is the financial situation that you're currently in, and kind of are you and your husband equally contributing to each other and to these retirement funds, or is it just kind of solely on your husband, and what does that look like?
Well, we have a 401k, and we were both putting money, and now I'm not contributing anything. We have a roof over our head and food in the fridge. We're not going hungry or anything like that. I just feel like I'm in the way. We have this plan to go off together and travel and all of that, and we were equally contributing to each other, but at this time, he's taking care of everything.
And what is that like for you to kind of know that he's taking care of everything and that you're not really able to contribute right now?
I feel hopeless and helpless, and like I just don't have a lot of value. That's how I feel, yes.
And when you say that, I notice how you kind of look away and almost like you feel like this kind of shame and or guilt about not being able to contribute with that. Is that kind of consistent with how you're feeling right now?
Yeah, that is. What type of woman doesn't contribute to her household?
I can understand how you could think like that. Have you ever felt this kind of shame or guilt in any other situations, like at work or anything like that, where you felt like?
Just when I'm doing something incorrectly, like if I can't meet a deadline that was given for some type of, case that I'm working on, and I'm not able to meet the deadline, or I need help to be able to meet it, and I have to give some of my workload to someone else so we can work, collaboratively to be able to get it done by the end of the day or the end of the week. I feel that if it was given to me, I should be able to handle it by myself, and it's just showing my incompetence to not be able to do that.
So you prefer not to have to collaborate, and kind of just almost it takes away from your independence and almost kind of assaults your level of skill when you have to collaborate with people?
If I need help, yes. I believe if it was originally given as some type of job where there's 3 of us on this case, I don't think there's anything wrong with that, but if it was given to me for me to finish and I'm too incompetent to do it by myself and I have to go out and seek help, that bothers me.
Okay. So, I'm wondering, so you say that you kind of have some kind of shame and guilt by not being able to contribute in a household after kind of being laid off from work. I'm interested in wondering what, has this had any effect on your relationship between you and your husband?
Yes, it has had an effect on my relationship with my husband and I. He says I'm just not the same anymore, and things that we used to like to do, I'm not really interested in doing anymore. But for me, I like to go to church, and I'm in a Bible study group, and that's just never really seemed to be anything that he found interesting. He'll go with me, but if I bring up God, or if I invite him to Bible study, or even when I'm playing my gospel music around the house, he'll ask me to turn it down and stuff like that. So he thinks I'm boring now. That's what he's calling it.
Okay. Have you ever kind of explored with him why he hasn't taken an interest in kind of getting more involved in your spiritual life with you, and why he would ask you to turn these things off, and why your interests are kind of not really where they used to be?
No, I was just nervous about bringing it up to him. He shuts it down, and I usually just accept it. I'm happy that he goes with me. He didn't always do that, so I'm happy now he'll at least get up and go. And I'm hoping that maybe he'll just change his mind and he'll want to start to be more involved. Because when I feel like I'm pushing him, I just think I'm not being a good wife. I shouldn't push anyone.
Okay. So I'm noticing kind of a consistency with kind of you say you're, in a way you don't want to ask him and kind of cause problems and further probe. And I kind of noticed the same thing can happen in your work situation where you say you were laid off, but you feel like it's something that you did, but you didn't ask kind of to clarify that if you were to really do something, you just kind of got laid off. So it's almost like this fear that you're going to get shot down, so you don't even take that risk of moving forward and asking people these questions. Is that kind of what you're feeling?
Well, I've never really thought of it that way. I guess so. I guess that's how I feel. I just remember when I was younger, my mom always made me feel like a burden, and now I don't want to be anyone's burden anymore.
That's understandable. I mean, it's hard when you've continuously been kind of shot down and felt like you weren't good enough to want to keep putting that on people. I'm wondering if there's anyone that you feel like you can talk openly to without feeling like a burden and kind of express your needs to.
Well, I have two sisters. We talk. We talk like maybe once a week or so. They live back home in Tennessee. I guess I could maybe talk to them.
Okay. Are there any other places or people that you feel like you feel more open and kind of can be yourself with, rather than just kind of leaving your wants and needs on the back burner?
Well, I am in a Bible study, and I do meet with the same group of women, throughout the week. So they talk openly about their problems. Maybe I could talk about mine too.
And what do you think might hold you back from wanting to talk about your own issues there with them?
I guess I don't want to be judged. I don't want. I already feel bad enough that I'm the wife who doesn't work and doesn't contribute to her household, and I just don't want to look like a bad wife or less than. like less than them, than these powerful women who are involved in the church and have a working life and a home life, and they're still, you know, spiritually involved, and here I am just struggling with everything.
Well, I do think that it's great that you are a part of that group, and it's understandable how you kind of don't want to be judged, and that is something that can definitely happen. However, I also feel as though being able to find someone, whether or not it be your church group or whether it be your sisters, finding someone that you can openly express your feelings to without fear of being judged or being criticized backwards is something that's very important and will kind of help you build your self-confidence and help you just recognize that kind of maybe even people are going through the same thing and that it might not be so hard. What would you say is kind of your most important thing to work in? Because I know you say looking for a new job is kind of one of the things that you're focusing on. Also, your relationship with your husband and his kind of lack of interest in spirituality or Christian faith. But also, I guess just being open with your community about kind of what's going on. What would you say is the most presenting, or I guess the most important factor that's having the most heart?
I think the fact that I've lost my job, and you know, some of these feelings have always kind of been there, but now it's just like I also don't even have a job. And I guess that would be what I am the most concerned about.
Okay. So maybe we can work together on figuring out maybe some skills, since it's kind of hard maybe to get a job in accounting. I know that there's a broad range of skills that you need to have for that, so whether it be in accounting or something else, we can work on a lot of your skills that you have and focus on some of your strengths and identifying those to see where we can move forward from there. What do you feel like is kind of one of the things you did best in your job?
Well, I was really good with numbers. Of course, it's accounting. I was really skilled at being able to have something in front of me and be able to figure out what this company could change to get back the most revenue. Like if that would be to change, and I would be able to do it by only just looking at the numbers of the product that they're putting out versus what they're getting in, versus where their money is being spent as far as employee goes or the rental for the building, things of that nature. So I was really good at being able to cut costs and tell them where they should place those additional finances to be more successful.
So you're very organized, and I can hear that, and you're very good at planning, so that's a broad range of opportunities. So I think that you should kind of be open, even if it does get kind of hard, just focusing on this accounting, maybe broadening your horizons and focusing on maybe other areas that you're interested in, just to see kind of what's open. What would that look like for you? How would life change for you if you were to find a job that you're happy with, that was able to kind of get you to contribute? How do you think life would be for you?
I think I just would feel better. I've just been going through a funk. I've just been down. My husband said something about depression, but I'm not depressed, I'm not. So I think it would get me out of my funk, and I would feel like I'm contributing to our household. I haven't worked for 6 months, but maybe if I found something soon, I could put us back on track for retirement. I would hate for us to not be able to do what we've been planning for so many years. What if he were to leave me because he's so upset and disappointed? I would just feel like we're more equally yoked in the relationship, because right now I don't feel that.
So you say you kind of fear that he would leave you. Do you feel like that would be, how does that make you feel to think about the fact that he would possibly leave you if you weren't able to kind of get your finances and be able to contribute as much?
Well, it feels pretty bad because we've been married for so many years, and how do you start all over? I can't even start all over in my career. I have to start all over in a marriage. But why would a man stay in a marriage with someone who he thinks is boring and who doesn't even contribute financially? And if he's saying I'm boring, I must not be contributing, mentally, and he won't allow me to contribute spiritually. So if he's not receiving anything from me, why would he be with me?
So I kind of like to focus a little bit on working together to kind of figure out the strengths and the reasons why you are in the relationship that you're in with your husband, and maybe also reasons contributing to why he maybe might not be the best partner for you. Maybe we can work through together and see what the best outcome is for you. Because from what I'm understanding, it seems as though you're saying he's inconsistent with his faith. He doesn't really want to let you express your faith in the home, and kind of saying you're boring. So kind of maybe following more on through with the verbal abuses you've experienced growing up. But you haven't really said anything positive about your relationship, so I'm just wondering what some strengths are and reasons why you're staying with him. I know you've been together for a long time, and that time has a big thing to do with that, but are there any other reasons why you want to stay in that relationship?
Where else am I gonna go? I don't know where else I would go. We met so long ago when we were both younger, and we just had more in common. We both really liked to paint, and we were artistic, and I felt that he really understood me. He was just so different from other people that I had been with in the past, and now it's still some of those factors there. We're both still artistic in a way, I guess. We don't paint anymore, but we both admire nice art. I'm comfortable would be the main reason.
Okay. When you have interactions with your husband, like I kind of mentioned, you don't really make eye contact with me much, and I can feel the distance is kind of making it hard for me to get to know you, and you kind of fumble with your fingers. So when you have altercations or any type of communication with your husband, I'm wondering if you also try to avoid eye contact and just avoid confrontation altogether with him.
Well, I don't want to upset anyone. Sometimes just like staring in someone's face, it just makes me a little uncomfortable. What are they looking at? Is there something on my face? Am I making them uncomfortable? Or what are they thinking when they're just staring at me? What are they thinking about? Sometimes he gets mad and he yells. I just don't really say anything back.
And why do you think that is that you don't say anything back?
I don't want to upset him. When you upset people, they leave, and I don't want to be by myself.
So maybe some things that we could work on is just learning how to communicate better in a more effective manner, to maybe get some of your needs met with your husband, and possibly maybe get him to want to have to become more involved in your religion, in your faith, as well as maybe just helping him to recognize that you're not boring. these some things. Are there any other things that you feel like you could enhance your relationship with him? Kind of help for some more open communication? Are there any things that he can do or that you feel like maybe you can do?
Maybe I could try to be more sexy for him. It just makes me uncomfortable that that's something that that he complains about, and I just want to fix this. I want you to fix what's wrong with me so I can be a better wife.
And so I don't think that you need to be fixed. I think that there are certain things that we can work through to kind of enhance your confidence in yourself, and just kind of such things as like the eye contact and things like that. And I feel as though those things will also help when searching for a job in the future, just that confidence and feeling like you're the right person for the job. Like when we start to build those things, then it will make them want you to work for them, and you know that you're the right one. They don't want to lose you. Things like that. What is your, you say you kind of talk to your sisters every now and again. What do they think about your relationship with your husband? If you ever talk about it.
They think it's fine. We don't, I don't go into a whole lot of details. When they ask me, how are Rick and I say that we're fine, and we just kind of move on with the next part. If they knew more, they would probably have more of an opinion or have a different opinion, but I don't really tell them that much.
Okay. And how does that feel? Like I'm always holding everything, and it doesn't really seem like you have anyone that you can openly just talk to without having to worry about being a burden or about being boring. What is that like for you to kind of hold all your true feelings in?
Well, it's upsetting. Well, sometimes it's upsetting. It's kind of what I'm used to, and it's kind of what I think you're supposed to do. You're not supposed to complain or anything like that. You just kind of like deal with it. You brush yourself off, and you don't want to be the person to bring people problems. People have enough problems. I don't want to bring them mine.
That makes sense. I can understand that, and there's nothing wrong with that. I mean, people always have their own stuff going on, so I can understand how it can be hard to feel like you're adding more burden to their burdens, or is that being judged? So we talked about a lot today, and you did a great job of just being very open with me and talking about things that you're not quite comfortable talking with other people about and haven't really told anyone about. So before we end today, I kind of just want to ask you what that was like to be able to talk about that, and to talk about that just in general. What was that like for you to be open about things that you haven't really been open about before?
Well, I guess I feel relieved. I have never really talked to anyone about my issues, and I was watching TV, and this movie came on. I can't remember the name of it, but the woman, and she just didn't really have anyone to talk to, and she started seeing a therapist, and it gave her an outlet, I think she had called it, and I was hoping that I can have one too, and I think that I do. So it felt good, and it felt like, I don't feel like my problems are over yet, of course, but I do feel a weight come off of my shoulders to just be able to discuss them with someone.
Well, great. I'm glad that I was able to kind of help with that. And I'm hoping that in our future sessions, we can kind of build on those communication skills to where you can get comfortable with speaking also with your husband and with maybe your sisters and people that you have these relationships with. Additionally, just working towards kind of building on your strengths that you already have. So I guess just recognizing those strengths, and we can work towards setting some goals for work and how we're going to go about how you're going to go about finding a job, and just navigating that route is something that we can work towards in our future sessions. But before we end, also I'd like to kind of check in with you. So we did work on a lot today, and I know it might have been overwhelming, kind of a lot and weird. But what might prevent you from coming back to see me next week?
I haven't really thought that far. If I'm being honest, that would probably be something I think about in the car ride home. I don't see why I wouldn't come back, but something that's stopped me from continuing relationships or allowing relationships to develop before in the past was just not wanting to be vulnerable and not wanting to tell someone all my problems, and that's exactly what I'm doing here. So it's a little new and uncomfortable. I feel like I'm on new water, but if I could maybe work through that, I don't see why I would not come back.
Well, that's great, and I think you're doing already an amazing job of working through. Even just from our last half of our session, you made more eye contact with me, and I do feel like I've been able to kind of get to know you better. So I do want you to just kind of think about just what you said and just how that weight lifts off your shoulders, and just how we can progress and continue to reach your goals as long as if you continue to come and see me. And I can't make any guarantees, but I do think that we can make a lot of progress together here in our future sessions.
Okay.
Is there anything else you'd like to discuss before we end for the day?
No, I think we've covered everything.
Okay, well, I look forward to seeing you next week, and I will kind of check in with you the day before as a little reminder, and I look forward to seeing the progress that we can make together.
Okay, bye. Have a great day.
You too.